This is the 43rd video in the Flow Certified Professional Online Training Series. In this video, we're going to go through a few more things about Flow and Agile, and in the next video, we're going to go through a few more things with Scrum as well. Flow doesn't replace your Agile training. This is in addition to whatever you've already done. Flow is the leadership framework that sits above the team, program, and portfolio levels. And we're going to talk a little bit about the roots of Agile, some definitions, some results, and a few things for the team level. As I mentioned, we're not trying to replace Scrum training. We're building on top of what you've already done and what you've learned from other experts in the fields. This video slides give you additional insights, how to turbocharge what you're doing, your own Agile work, your teams, and eventually the entire organization. If you're going to do an Agile certification, I would highly recommend that you do the Professional Scrum Master Level 1 test if you haven't done any of those so far. And that's just self-study, and you can see the tips on how to pass that in the last video that we're going to do in this series. And they also have tips from scrum.org, plus I have my reading list that I have on my website. And the nice thing about the PSM 1 is that it's a permanent certification. I'm actually considering abandoning my Scrum Alliance certifications and switching over to the Professional Scrum Master. I just haven't decided to do that yet. So this eliminates the certification mill issues you probably encounter with other certifications. Flow is the same way. It's one time. You take the training, you take the quizzes, you pass the quizzes, you pay your fee, you get certified. It's a one-time, lifetime certification. Agile's roots are really in lean theories of constraints. I studied this in my MBA program 27 years ago. It includes concepts like just-in-time, Six Sigma, rapid prototyping. All of us were required to read the book The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. And he's like the father of the idea of theories of constraints, and that you manage to the constraint, you don't break it necessarily. Because if you break a constraint, it just moves it. And you see that all the time in your organizations. Agile's not new. In fact, that's the whole point of Nehemiah Effect. We went backwards and found that Nehemiah used all of the Agile methodologies, tactics, and tools that we use today, except for the daily stand-up. He had a daily sit-down that was a meal that was catered and really nice for all the workers. So that was the only difference. And that's from 2,500 years ago. So Agile has been around for a long time. We haven't called it that, and we've called it other things, but as we're moving forward and as people are uncovering more and more history, we're finding that Agile concepts have been in process for 2.5 millennia. So that's quite a while. So if somebody's telling you that, oh, Agile's 20 years old, no. I've been doing Agile and Agile thinking for my entire career, for 35 years. I've been using the 4R model for 37 years. So when you're talking about Agile's new, not even close. The way that they've packaged some of it may be new, but the concepts are not new. There's nothing new under the sun, and you can take that one to the bank. I love Dilber. I love the comics. We need 3 more programmers. And pointing at our boss, use Agile programming methods. And Dilber, Agile programming doesn't mean doing more work with fewer people. Pointing at our boss, find me some words that do mean that and ask again. I mean, it's really, really good, and it's pretty much spot on accurate. And I love this. This is one of my favorites. And we're glad it has a name. We're going to try something called Agile Programming. That means no more planning, no more documentation. Just start writing code and complaining. While he's like drinking his coffee. I'm glad it's got a name. It has a name. And the pointy-haired boss goes, that was your training. And that is really good because it highlights that Agile doesn't mean that there's no planning. It doesn't mean that there's no documentation. If you take the Agile principle of maximizing the work not done, that means that your planning and documentation may look a lot different than what we used to do when we would produce, huge books and then go, here's your project documentation, and you had to have a forklift to carry it down the hall. And so things are changing, and the way we document things have changed. And I don't think the complaining has ever changed or stopped. Now, this is why definitions are important. This is from 2007, so this is from 13 years ago. And this shows why definitions are so important for features used. This was Microsoft Office. Microsoft did this one, and they had done a study of how often people were using the features. And this is just mind-blowing. Only 7% of the features were used all the time. 13% often, 16% some of the time, 19% rarely, and 45% never. And I just realized that if you redo these letters, it spells arson. That's pretty good. Anyways, I had it over here, these codes, so that you could see that when you combine some, rarely, and never, and then combine these two together all the time and often, that's an 80-20 Pareto. Pareto would have been proud. He was an Italian economist that came up with the 80-20 Pareto. It's named after him. And so you have to question. They can argue, I have an MBA in marketing, so blow smoke up somebody else's skirt. But you have to really question Microsoft when you're looking at 64% of your features in your product are rarely or never used. Almost half are never used. If they're never used, why on God's green earth did you ever spend a single penny of development investment on creating features that nobody would ever use? You can argue all you want about, oh, well, we did this for marketing to position us as ours has the most features. I'm not sure people really care. Especially when barely 20% are used all the time or often, and only 7% are used all the time. So when you're thinking about why definitions will make or break you, this is why. This is really important. And this is why the 4D model starts with vision and definitions. Here's the 4R model, and it all boils down to results. And when you're looking at the results here, I flipped it and I put do the right thing, and here's the 4R model that hopefully gets you around the curve. If you have the right truth and the right values and attitudes, and people actually act according to those two, you'll get the right actions and hopefully get the right results. And so by extension, you'll end up doing the right thing. Again, increase revenues, decrease costs, get rid of, mitigate risk are also results that the organization is looking for. And so when you're looking at Agile, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? And are you going to get the results from it that you were looking for? I wanted to go through a little bit about the 10th, 11th, and 12th annual. surveys. It's the State of Agile survey by Verizon one. And the main thing I wanted to point out from here is in the 10th annual, 74% was Scrum, or a Scrum hybrid, or a Scrum Bond. 11th annual, 75%. 12th annual, 70%. And, it's over 70% of all Agile is Scrum. So when I hear people saying, well, Scrum's only a small part of Agile, or Agile's more than Scrum. Okay, yes, Agile's more to Scrum. But when Scrum is 70%, over 2/3 of all Agile is Scrum, please take the time to learn Scrum and get certified, because it's really important that people understand each other. And when you start looking at the percentages down in these pictures of other methodologies, XP's like 1 or 2%. XP's great, but Scrum XP Hybrid is 6 times bigger than what you're doing with XP. So 10 times bigger in these two surveys. On the next slide, I've got the 13th annual. Scrum is 72%, Scrum Bond is 8%, the XP Hybrid is 10%. And when you look at extreme programming, that's only 1%. And so the hybrid is 10 times bigger than the original. And they're starting to include less and less, because they still have Kanban, iterative development, lean startup. 3% don't know what their methodology is in Agile. That just cracks me up. You don't know? Oh my goodness. That means 1 out of every 33 team members out there have no idea of what they're doing. And so this is really important for us. These are brutal facts. And optimists die first, according to Good to Great. And so you have to be a pragmatic optimist, deal with the brutal facts, and work from there. You have to deal with the world as it is, not how you want it or think it is. Here's another Dilbert. You're ruining my flow. And so the pointy hair buzz. I'm giving you another software project to work on at the same time as your main project. Dilbert's like, that will ruin my flow. It'll take too long to reset my brain when I switch between projects. Have you tried working longer hours without extra pay? Yes, I have. Personal heroics are not sustainable. If you burn your people out, they're going to disengage, and then they're going to start actively working against you. And up to 20% are actively working against you, even if in the US the numbers are around 30%. If you got 20% working against you, it's no wonder you got a lot of friction and gridlock in the organization. And task switching will kill you. And it's just like, I've seen organizations where they start slicing people up. And when I look at people and I see that they're working on 4 projects, you're not getting 25% on each project. You're lucky if you're getting 5% on each project, just due to what you're losing due to task switching and all the other garbage that goes on in an organization and company. So that is why you need persistent, dedicated teams where you're putting the projects into the team and let them focus on one at a time. And that will increase your flow, it will increase your velocity. In the end, you'll get more work done. And please don't tell me that all 25 things you just gave to that team are all priority ones. BS. Let's grow up, and it's time for the executives to start to step up, support the teams, give them proper prioritization, and say, yeah, this one actually is more important than this one. And then let the teams go get that one done first. And then you can look at, is that one still worth doing? So it will help you invest your money better and give you a better return if you do it that way than trying to just slam the teams with work. How's that been working for you guys? Right now, traditional has been doing that for decades, half a century. And right now, Traditional project management can only deliver success 14 to 16% of the time, depending on which study you're looking at. So that being the case, why would you keep doing that? That just doesn't make any sense to me. But anyways, I'll get off my soapbox for a second. And we'll come back into the recap and application. Flow-based Agile the flow-based Agile training that we do, because I have a 2-day program for this that would incorporate Agile into this, I've taken all of that out. We don't replace your Agile training anymore. You can do the self-study and do the PSM1 and a cloud of dust. Will that make you a great Scrum Master? No. But it will give you a foundation that if you actually go out and start using it, you'll actually be able to do it well. And that's what Flow is all about, is to give you the leadership part of this that everybody else seems to leave out. We talked about Agile's roots, that it's not new. We've talked about some definitions. We looked at some results with the Microsoft Outlook case study, and then some of the team level things that you need to keep in mind. Flow makes Agile work exceptionally well. You'll see one of the videos in this group where a CIO sat in, used what we did, went back, had his teams work with it, and they got a 300% increase, and this was for teams that were already doing Agile. So that was a 300% increase in velocity in 90 days, 3 months. So we know this works. We know it's duplicatable. I know that you can do it and that you will succeed. It's not even a question anymore from my part. And so it works well at the team level, product level, portfolio level, organization level, as long as you're applying the principles that flow in each of those areas in the way that you should.